guys, welcome to Wellburn CrossFit. We are back. I know I haven't made a video in like 2 weeks. I'm so sorry. I've just been like crazy busy, floating back and forth between 2 gyms, doing the open, up in my training, and then up in my training with people and friends and family. But I love it, and I'm glad to be back making videos. So today is my speed day, my dynamic effort day, where I focus on being quick with movements, being very smooth, and being technically proficient. Today I'm gonna be doing snatches, power snatches, to be specific. And I thought, what better day than to talk about some snatch tips. Some cues for coaches and athletes, but also just some overall tips for snatching, because I love to snatch. It's probably my favorite thing. I shouldn't say it is. It really is my favorite thing. So we're gonna talk about some snatches. Stay tuned. I'm gonna finish my warm up, but you're gonna wanna see this video because there's lots of little gold nuggets in here, both for coaches and athletes. So here we go. Alright, so I'm still getting warmed up, but I wanted to go ahead and start the video. First things first, for both athletes and coaches, you cannot overthink as an athlete, and you cannot overcoach. So anytime I'm starting out with somebody, whether I'm teaching them the clean, the snatch, the jerk, whatever, complicated movement, I tell them, look, this is a big movement, there's a lot of parts to it, but you cannot overthink. You cannot cloud your mind with a whole bunch of different cues or different things you're thinking about. You really have to focus on one thing and stick to mastering that one thing. So in other words, and I watch coaches do this all the time, and it's horrible and I hate it, but if I'm working with an athlete and I'm trying to teach them the snatch, it's so easy for me to want to throw 20 million cues at them and want to fix every single part of their lift. And here's the deal, it ain't gonna happen. It's not gonna happen like that. As a coach, it's incredibly irresponsible of you to throw so many cues at an athlete like that, because one, they're not gonna retain any of it. They're not gonna be able to focus on their feet and their knees and their hips and having a strong punch and getting tall and staying stable and squeezing their core. They're not gonna be able to focus on all of that all at the same time. And all you're doing as a coach is one, making them overthink. Two, you're actually slowing them down because you're clouding them with so many thoughts. If you've ever watched somebody learn something new, you'll watch them hesitate and really struggle because they're thinking about things over and over and over again. They're thinking about so many different things at one time. And so, first things first, anytime you're learning a movement or you're trying to fix a movement, you've got to focus on one thing at a time. Let them master that one thing for the session. Yes, the session, the entire session. And then next time around, you start focusing on something else, and you always pick the biggest thing first. So for me, most of the time it's the feet. I make sure people are staying in their midfoot. That's the most important thing, generating maximum tension in the legs, and it also ensures that we're going straight up. It can straighten out that bar path. I made a whole video about the feet. You can go watch it. I'll try to keep it brief today, but I always start with that, and then I move on from there, and I pick something else. But it's always one thing at a time, and it's just the most effective way to teach and coach. So coaches, one thing at a time, one cue at a time, one emphasis of the lift at a time. And for athletes, don't overthink. Okay, if you're working on your snatch, you pick one thing to work on. Maybe it's keeping your knuckles down, maybe it's staying in the midfoot, maybe it's getting tall, but one thing at a time. Most effective way to learn. These lifts take forever to learn. It's like a lifelong journey. So one thing, stick with it, and just focus on improving little by little. That's the best way to do it. I'm pausing at my knee for these power snatches. There's a ton of reasons you can do this, but this is such a phenomenal tool for both coaches and athletes Because the main reason is one, checking positions. So I'm pausing at my knee to make sure I'm in the right position when I'm pulling the bar. And you can pause anywhere. You'll see people pause an inch off the ground. You'll see people pause right when they get to the hip. It's just a way to check the position to make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be. Because when we're coaching, it's pretty difficult to kind of see everything because it all happens so fast. So that's one. Another reason, and the reason I'm doing it today, is because it kills the momentum, the acceleration that I've put on the bar. So when I pause at my knee, I've killed my upward acceleration on the bar, which means I have to regenerate it. And for me, since it's my speed day, that's what I'm focusing on, is trying to accelerate the bar even in an unfavorable condition. The other reason is strength. So if I have someone who is maybe losing their midline, or I don't know, maybe they're extending their knees too quickly, I may have them pause in these positions to strengthen that specific area. So I force them to hold an isometric contraction in the middle of this lift, and that's gonna help strengthen that particular position. So pausing, use it. Coaches, athletes, it's a great teaching tool, and I love it. I do it all the time. So one of the most effective cues that I've ever come across for a lot of fixes, like a lot of things we need to be fixed, is keeping your knuckles down as long as possible. So literally keeping my knuckles facing towards the ground. I love this cue because it solves so many problems. The first one is keeping the bar close. A lot of times what happens is athletes, they'll make contact with the legs or the hips, and they let that bar drift out and away, and you see my knuckles turn up when that happens. And so one of the good cues is keep your knuckles down as long as possible. And what that'll do is that'll just straighten that bar path and help keep that bar close as I'm pulling it up, because you can't keep your knuckles down and be out and away. It's almost impossible. The other thing I really love it for is it extends the pull. So if I have someone really shortening their pull and that they get about here and they want to rush under, once again, they're letting those knuckles come up. So if I tell them keep their knuckles down, they'll end up getting a big, long pull in an effort to keep those knuckles down and then get under that bar and punch. So keep your knuckles down. If you're an athlete, think about this when you're snatching. It'll extend your pull and it'll help you keep the bar closer. And then coaches, if you have an athlete who's not keeping the bar close, or they're not extending all the way and not pulling long enough, tell them to keep their knuckles down. Works almost every time, one of my favorite cues. I didn't realize how difficult it would be to do a set and then try to talk. I'm so out of shape. So one of the cues that I absolutely refuse to use, and I refuse to let athletes think about it or say it in this way, is dropping. And sometimes coaches will tell athletes to drop under the bar. And I absolutely hate this fucking cue. And I understand why a coach would tell someone that. If I have someone, you know, that's getting a good pull, but then like kind of muscling it the rest of the way, I would understand why a coach would say, hey, drop under the bar. But the problem with that is that's not what you should be doing. In other words, when I'm snatching, I do not drop under the bar. And the reason that is because if you do get an athlete that does drop under the bar, what happens is you lose connection with the barbell. You're losing tension because you're not focusing on necessarily pulling the bar up and pulling yourself under. You're focusing on basically dropping. And that becomes a problem because when I go to catch the barbell, because I have dropped, will crash on me. In other words, I get stable and then I get ready to receive the bar, but because I've lost tension with the barbell, I've lost connection because I was so focusing on dropping, the bar is now going to crash. In other words, it's gonna come down on me. And if it's not in the perfect position, like literally right over the middle of your foot, you're probably gonna lose it because you've lost tension, you've lost connection. So a better cue and a better way to think about it is to continue pulling on the bar and pull yourself under. Stay connected with the barbell, maintain tension with the barbell, and pull yourself under. That way you never lose connection, you never lose the feeling of the barbell, and it's more of a catch and then sit down. So if I pull myself under, I'm only gonna pull myself under as much as I need to get the barbell locked out. And if I'm doing a full squat snatch, that's fine, I'll just let it push me down. But you see this come out in the power snatch because the power snatch reinforces the catch, right? I'm only gonna go as low as I need to get it locked out, and then I'm gonna stand. And the only difference between the squat snatch and the power snatch is where I catch it, one, but also, am I allowing it to push me down or am I trying to stand up immediately? If I'm going heavy, chances are the weight's gonna push me down and I'm going to have to do a full squat, reestablish leg drive to stand up. Not bounce, notice I didn't say bounce, but reestablish leg drive to stand back up. That's the only difference between a power snatch and a squat snatch. So if you're a coach, try not to say drop because that's not what's actually happening and you're gonna start creating bad habits in your athletes. And if you are an athlete, don't think about dropping, think about pulling yourself under the bar, maintain tension, maintain a connection with the bar, and I promise you, it will pay off. You will have a much cleaner, smoother snatch. All right, guys, that does it for today's video. That's about all I got. I'm starting to get tired. Go give these a try, test it out, see how you like these cues, these tips. Hopefully they work for you. I'm gonna finish my snatch workout, so I will catch you guys later. Peace.